This is most dangerous weapon in human history. In entire World War II, 5 megaton explosives were used. This is the Trident II missile, which can carry 12 nuclear warheads, and in this one missile alone, there is also 5 megaton explosive material, and one submarine can carry 24 Trident missiles. In our entire history, no weapon was as deadly as these submarines. People have no idea what we humans have created. Submarines are meant to be unseen, meaning their very purpose is that no one can detect them, no one can see them. Through submarines, you maintain a kind of psychological pressure on your enemy, because they can be anywhere at any time and no one even knows. Like, you might be happily swimming in the ocean and beneath you could be a 48,000-ton weight nuclear submarine that, with the press of a button, could destroy more than half the world. But how did we reach this point? How were these submarines invented? How can a submarine stay so deep underwater for 3 to 4 months? And most importantly, why am I saying these submarines are the most dangerous thing in all of human history? Let's find out. In this video of Anifoverse, humans have always sought ways to go underwater. This is a very old image of Alexander the Great, in which he is going underwater in a large glass barrel. This is from approximately 2,000 years ago. Then, 1,800 years later, Leonardo da Vinci made a sketch of a water-going vessel. The fun fact is, Leonardo kept many such sketches very secret, because he feared humans would use such ships to harm each other. Then in 1775, a Dutch scientist built an underwater boat that looked something like this. It was called the Turtle Boat, and it was humanity's first submarine. The Dutch tried to use this boat in their freedom war against the British, but it sank, and the entire experiment failed. Anyways, in the 19th century, work on this idea had already accelerated. German scientist Rudolf Diesel invented an engine that changed everything. This engine mixed air and fossil fuels to create pressure, causing small explosions that made things move. The Germans thought, why not use this engine in underwater boats so that their batteries could be charged underwater? German scientists acted on this idea and invented the first modern submarine. These submarines were called U-boats, but they had just one problem. Their engines needed air, and underwater there was no such system. So German submarines had to surface every 48 hours to let their engines take in air. And as soon as they surfaced, they were detected, and the element of surprise was lost. But this problem was about to be solved very soon. In the 20th century, after the Industrial Revolution, a technology boom arrived. The world's superpowers were building deadlier weapons to destroy their enemies. Not even 20 years had passed since the horrors of World War I when another global war began. In 1939, World War II started, killing millions and leaving the Western world in ruins. Germany lost World War II, and its U-boat submarines fell into the hands of America, the UK, and the Soviet Union. These 3 countries realized they now possessed incredible technology, because one thing was clear: whoever wanted to rule the world had to dominate the oceans. And this was the turning point when all 3 countries secretly began investing billions of dollars into submarine technology. During this period, between the 1940s and 1950s, scientists had split the atom and discovered nuclear energy. The unique thing about nuclear energy was that this entire fusion process required no air. Then in the 1950s, an American Navy officer, Hyman Rickover, had an idea. If we can generate electricity via nuclear energy without needing air, why not install nuclear reactors in submarines? This way, submarines would no longer need to surface every 2 days. He shared this idea with the American Navy chief. The chief ordered engineers to test Rickover's idea by installing a nuclear plant inside submarines, and it was done. The experiment succeeded, and then everything changed. Now submarines no longer needed to surface for air at regular intervals. Now a submarine could stay underwater for 20 years. But obviously trained soldiers are on these submarines, and their food and drink arrangements also need to be managed. This is why every 3 months, the submarine must surface to restock food supplies and bring new soldiers on board. Due to the nuclear reactor, submarines can now easily stay deep in the ocean for months. But just staying underwater wasn't enough. Sonar could still detect submarines. Sonar is actually a technology where you detect objects in water using sound waves. And by that time, all superpower countries had become so advanced that they used sonar technology. To counter this, submarines were coated with rubber tiles so that sonar signals wouldn't bounce off. Such large propellers, silent mode engines, were built to ensure no noise was generated in the water. And not just externally, but inside the submarine, silence is heavily maintained. Everything inside the submarine is covered with rubber to prevent even the slightest sound. Inside the submarine, there's no connection to the outside world. Every submariner is given an email address where their family can send emails. But every email is reviewed by top management and only then conveyed to the submarine. The reason for this is that they don't want to share any information with the officers that could lower their morale. For example, if a submariner's family member dies, this news is only shared after their shift ends. And here, shifts last 2 to 3 months, making these submariners' duties extremely tough. And if we go back to the 70s and 80s, submarines were getting bigger. For instance, if we compare Germany's U-boat submarines with American submarines, the difference was so vast that these submarines grew massively. Like if we zoom in, you can see people here. This is the kitchen, this is the nuclear reactor, and this is the area where the entire crew sleeps. If you look closely, these crew members are sleeping next to tubes. These tubes contain nuclear missiles, and through these tubes the missiles are launched. Just one American submarine carries enough missiles to destroy our entire planet. After explaining all this, if we now turn to the submarine's actual purpose, it is retaliating a nuclear first strike. This means that if a country, let's say America, launches a nuclear attack on Russia, Russian submarines, hidden deep underwater in unknown locations, would survive the nuclear strike and retaliate by targeting America with nuclear missiles. These nuclear submarines don't even require permission from any government authority. So if America nukes Russia, the Russian submarine commanders will retaliate with a nuclear strike on America without waiting for orders. This is why every submarine has a secret letter in its safe box. If a country is hit by a nuclear attack and its leadership is wiped out, this letter instructs the submarine commander on what to do next. These submarines act as a psychological defense, deterring other countries from launching nuclear attacks. This is also why, despite having so many nuclear bombs, Russia and America don't attack each other. These submarines are the reason nuclear war has been prevented. Currently, 6 countries in the world possess nuclear submarines: America, the UK, France, India, Russia, and China. This is why these countries are military giants. Having nuclear weapons on land is powerful, and having them on jets is also formidable. But in both cases, you can see and target those weapons. However, when you have nuclear submarines silently roaming the oceans, you gain a massive surprise advantage over your enemy. Another major benefit of submarines is their unmatched capability for espionage. I'm sure you all know that most global communication today happens through underwater cables. It's not just the internet. Military communications also rely on these cables. These cables lie so deep in the ocean that no one can even think of reaching them, except submarines. In the 1970s, American intelligence agencies collaborated with the Navy to devise a plan to locate and tap Russian communication cables under the Pacific Ocean. A team of submariners was sent to the area, and they found a cable 120 meters deep, connected to a Soviet naval base. The Americans attached a tape recorder to the cable, enabling them to listen to all Soviet communications. The Russians couldn't even imagine that someone could do this. The Americans had executed all this very smartly, but there was just a small problem. These tapes would fill up very quickly, and then every month, divers had to go and remove the old tapes and insert new ones. This continued for nearly 8 to 9 years, and all of the Soviet Union's naval strategy kept reaching the Americans. Then finally, an agent from the American intelligence agency sold all this information to the Russians for $35,000, and the Russians captured this recorder. Even today, countries tap fiber optic cables in the ocean. If you read ex-CIA contractor Edward Snowden's report, you'll find many such things in it. Now, if we return to the question of how destructive a submarine's power is, let me explain with a demonstration. This is the Ohio-class submarine, which carries nuclear missiles. At the front of each missile are cone-shaped warheads. Whenever a missile is launched from the submarine, it exits Earth's atmosphere at full speed. Upon reaching space, the missile's engine turns off, and these cone-shaped warheads separate from the missile and descend to explode on their targets. The power of a single missile launched from a submarine is 12 times greater than the atomic bomb dropped on Japan, and each submarine can carry 24 such missiles. These submarines are an example of how we humans have invented all kinds of things to destroy each other, and also proof that if humans desire, we can achieve anything. Just think for a moment. Operating a machine underwater for 3 to 4 months without air is an impossible task, but we humans have done it. Why? Simply because all our focus is on power, control, and money. Imagine if this focus were on peace, eradicating poverty, and curing diseases. What could humans achieve then? Share your opinion about peace in the comments. See you in a new video. Bye.